Okay, so part 3 of my first game, and we are actually this time going to start making the game. So hopefully you have sort of like a house kind of structure. You've played around with it. You've played around with adding some materials, and you followed along with this creating of this light. And if you got that far, great. But we are now going to delete all this because we don't need it for our game. This was just learning some of the basics of the engine. So what we could do is just select these and hit delete, and obviously that's going to delete all those, but it's going to take a while. So the quickest way is, because we've got wall tile here, and if we come down to where it says wall tile, the last wall tile, and hold shift and click, then it'll select all of that, and we can just hit delete. Now we'll do the same with the floor tiles. Delete. Just got some more here. Delete those. I'm also going to delete this light because that was just a test as well. It's going to say that this is referencing a blueprint. Do you want to remove it? Yes, we do. Okay, and then we are back to where our scene was before when we first loaded up the engine with nothing else in it, which is what we want. We've also got this door. I'm also going to delete that because even though it's invisible, it's still there. So let me explain what this game's going to be. So if I hit play, we're going to have this set up pretty much as it is. We're going to fire this ball, but what we're going to have is enemies coming towards us from like a bunch of different directions. They're going to run at us. We're going to be able to shoot them. If we shoot them, they're going to add to our score. If they hit us, we're going to have health. They're going to take away from our health. And it's kind of an endless game. They'll endlessly spawn, and we've just got to get a higher score as possible. Really simple game, but it'll have the full loop. So we'll have a start, a middle, and an end. So let's get started with that. So the first thing that we need to do, so we're getting all these errors because we still have code in our level blueprint. So if we open up our level blueprint and then see all the errors are here, so we can just drag over that, hit delete, and then we've got no problems. Hit compile, and then when we hit play in the game and come out again, we get no errors. Nice. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is set up our folders in our content folder. So if you've still got Matt typed in the search bar, just delete that, and then you'll come to your content folder. And then we want to create a new folder. So just right click and go to the top and create a folder. And we're going to call this, we're just going to call it blueprints. Keep everything simple. Okay, and inside that blueprints folder, we're going to click again. And we're going to so we double click to open it up, and then we're going to right click, and then we're going to create a blueprint class. Okay, we're going to create the enemy. So we create a blueprint class, and we want it to be a character because it's going to have some logic pre-built into there that we're going to want to use. So click on character, and we're going to call this enemy underscore BP in capital letters. BP obviously standing for blueprint. And then when you've got that, double click on it, and then we're in this character's blueprint. Now, this consists of a viewport, which is here where we can add components. So right now we've got a capsule component that deals with collision. We've got an arrow, which is telling us which way is forward. And there is a mesh, which we can add, but we don't have a skeletal mesh to add here. This is a skeletal mesh, so we're just going to add another mesh. So to get that started, we're just going to click on this green button, and we're going to type mesh. And the one we want is right at the bottom, the static mesh. So click on that and then call that player mesh, just player mesh. Okay, and with that selected, so you know it's selected because it's highlighted yellow or gold, come over to the right-hand side and we can assign it a static mesh here. Okay, so if we click on the drop-down menu, now later on we're going to add in an actual enemy, but for now, just for testing, we're going to use the 1 meter cube. So it's the very top asset. So you'll see that is applied to our blueprint. And for now, no, what else we're going to do is we're going to add another collision box around here, and that's what we're going to use to detect the player. So with the player mesh selected, we're going to, because if I have the player mesh selected, any component that I add will become a child of that. So it'll be attached to it. So come to the components, and this time I'm just going to type box, and I want a box collision. Now we can't see that straight away because it's too small. It's hidden inside. So all we need to do is come over here at the top to the scale tool, grab it by the center, can sometimes be it, and then just drag that with click on and hold the left mouse button and drag, and just have it a little bit bigger than the actual cube. Right, so now we've got that in there. We just need to come over. So this is where we set up all the components. We can add like if this was a character, we could add swords and all that kind of stuff here. And this will make more sense as we go through. But on these tabs here, we have a construction script, and we're not going to use that. So I'm just going to hit the X there. Excuse me. But what we are going to use is this event graph. Now this is where we write the code like we did in the flashing light blueprint. But this is individual to this specific blueprint. It won't run in the level constantly, and we can easily repeat this stuff and copy it and all that kind of stuff, which we couldn't do with the light. We'd have to write it out for every light if we did it that way. Okay, so what we want this to do is we want it, when it sees the player, to chase the player, essentially. So when it's spawned into the world, when it's created, we want it to find where the player is and move towards it. So what we need to do in order for it to do that is we need to go back actually to the, let's go back to the viewport, and we want to add, no, we've got the character movement. That should be fine. Right, so let's come off of here, this event begin play, because we want this to happen as soon as this is spawned into the world or the level starts. We want to do a AI move to. So we've got this. So sometimes it won't come up with the exact one you want, but the one we want is here, an AI move to. Okay, and then you'll get this blue node. Okay, so it's going to ask us a few questions on here. Now, we don't always have to fill out all of these, and it's a bit of a trick to know which ones you do have to fill out. But usually, if you haven't filled them all out that you need, you'll get an error when you compile. So if we just click compile now, it didn't give us any errors, but nothing would work. So it's going to ask us which pawn is it that is going to be moving. So it's itself. So we want to drag out. So left click and drag out and just type self. And then the only option is get reference to self. So we want to get reference to self, and then we want to know the destination. All right. So in order to get the destination, we're going to have to do something called casting. Now, what casting is essentially allowing me to access variables from other actors in the world. Now, that might sound complicated, but once we do it a few times, it'll make sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off this again. So it doesn't matter that this is already plugged in. And I'm going to drag off here, and I'm going to type cast to first person character. So there's a bunch of options here. Make sure you get cast to first person character. And look, it's plugged that back into there for us automatically. Now we have to fill out this object, and this pin can be a little bit of a problem with casting. And we'll go into that and how to resolve that in much later videos. But we're going to drag off there and type get player character. You know it's right if the node looks like this. Okay, so what this is doing is saying, okay, when we start playing, look for the player character, and then what we're going to do is we're going to plug in. So it says here target actor. So AI move to this target actor. So if we drag from there and plug that in there, because this is a target actor, this is our player, that will automatically set the destination to go to there. Okay, so it's as simple as that, hopefully, if we haven't forgot anything. So we'll go and give that a quick test. But there is something we have forgot. Now, in order to have any AI move in your game world, you must have a navigation mesh. So if you come over to where it says place actors and type NAV for navigation, and we want a nav mesh bounds volume. So you drag that, you grab it, drag it in, and then you'll see we've got this little box. Now we want to get our scale tool, so we can either click it up here or hit R on our keyboard, and then we want to scale this so that it covers the entire play area. All right, you even want to do it on the Z like that, and then you want to hit P on your keyboard, and you'll see the green areas are all the navigable, oh, that's a good word, navigable space that the AI will be able to move on. All right, so let's give that a little test. So in order to start testing this out, we have to drag the blueprint into the level. So there is an example of it in the level. Okay, so there it is. Let's see, let's give this a test. So we hit play and we see, look, this guy is chasing us. Oh, he stopped chasing us though. He did chase us at the beginning, so at least we've got something working. Okay, so let's compile that. Yep, that should work. So what was the problem? I think the problem is that when he got to me, right, so he's fulfilled his requirement to move to me, and then now he's stopped because we haven't told him to do anything once he's got to us. But for this game, that's actually going to be absolutely fine because when he gets to us, he's going to explode, and that's all his functionality is. So obviously, for different kinds of AI, you don't want it to just stop and then carry on again. But for our purposes, that's absolutely fine. And of course, we're trying to keep things as simple as possible. So we've got another 5 minutes on this. So let's set up that logic then, so that when he does collide with the player, so when he is overlapping with him, we want him to explode, or that's just really just to destroy. And in a later video, we'll actually have that take some health off the player. But for now, we'll just have it so that it does actually get there and destroy. So we are setting this up. So now that this is in the level, I don't have to click on it in here to open it up. I can just click it in the level and then come over to the world outliner and click on edit enemy BP. And I'll get back to where I was. Also, if I don't close these, they'll always stay open, so that can be really useful. These tabs, you can have a bunch open when you're working on, quite complex things. But for now, I won't have too many open because it can just get a little confusing. Right, so this works for what we need now. So I'm going to drag over it, hit C to write a comment, and then I'm going to call this AI. Now I'm going to extend this a little bit because I'm going to write a little bit more code. Now the controls in here, which I haven't gone over yet, which I should have. So to zoom in and out is the mouse button. To sort of navigate around, you just hold the right mouse button and drag. And if you sort of like drag out from here, it will go with your drag in. So it's really easy to navigate around here. Just remember it's the right mouse button and then drag, and the middle mouse button to zoom in and out. So here you can see, we can say on success, then, we could just go back into here and have it always, we could just drag that back in, it will create a loop. So when it does success, then it casts there again and then moves too. So that would be an easy way to just, if it was a problem, but it's not a problem for us. So what we're going to do next is we're going to, so again, we could do the damage from here, I think. And the explosion. Let's give that a try. So, yeah, we could change it later, but I haven't tried this, so let's just give this a try. So on success, so when AI moves to and it's successful, all we want to do is destroy actor. Destroy actor. There it is. And the target is itself. We wanted to destroy itself. But just so we can sort of add a little bit of oomph to that, on success as well, what we want to do, we want to drag out again, and we want to spawn emitter at location. Spawn emitter at location. Now, here this might look like a big one, but we only have to fill out these top two. Now, we just use this drop-down menu and pick the P explosion, the second one down. So it'll spawn an explosion, and the location of that is, so if we just grab this player mesh that we created, what's great about this is that we can use these as references. So we're going to drag that in like that, just hold down left mouse button and drag it in, and then drag out and type get world location. Plug that into there. So it'll just spawn the particle emitter where at the point where he becomes successful by colliding with me. So let's check, see if that works. I've never done it this way, but it just occurred to me that should work, and it did. Okay, so let's just give that another test because it was a little quick. But he comes to me, And when he is successful, he explodes. And then later on, we'll use that to apply some damage to the player. All right, and we'll probably do that in the next video. But for now, I'm going to stop this one here because we're nearly run out of time. And I'll see you in the next one.